Loretta Gaines had learned the hard way that a small piece of paper could decide whether you slept, whether you walked, whether you stayed alive long enough to see your grandkids grow into their own faces. She was the kind of grandmother people underestimate on sight. Late 60s, careful hair, sensible shoes, posture that had been trained by decades of getting up anyway. She did not look like trouble. She looked like the person who brings potato salad to a church basement and remembers everybody's birthdays. She also looked like someone who knew exactly how quickly a calm day could turn ugly if you got trapped inside somebody else's rules. That morning began with a routine that did not feel routine anymore. A new medication, a new dosage, a new warning from her doctor about what happens when she misses even a couple days. Loretta had left the clinic with a printed prescription in a sealed envelope and an electronic copy already sent to her usual pharmacy. The nurse had repeated the instructions twice. Loretta repeated them back. She had done everything right. By the time she reached the pharmacy, the sun was bright enough to make the parking lot shimmer. The store sat in a strip of quiet businesses with clean windows and flags that tried to look patriotic without committing to anything. Loretta parked close because her knee had been acting up. She pushed through the automatic doors, took a cart, even though she did not need it, and walked to the pharmacy counter with her purse hugged tight against her side. There were only a few people waiting. A white man in a baseball cap flipping through lottery tickets. A young mother with a toddler twisting at her hip. A woman in scrubs who looked tired in a way Loretta recognized. Loretta waited her turn, then slid her identification and insurance card across the counter the way she had done 100 times. At first it was normal. A clerk scanning, typing, nodding. Then a pause. A second pause. The clerk's eyes flicked to the computer screen, then back to Loretta's face as if she were trying to match two different pictures. The clerk said she needed the pharmacist. Loretta watched the clerk step away and return with a pharmacist who moved like he was already irritated. White man, mid-40s, clean coat, clipped expression. The sort of person who talks softly but makes you feel like you are being graded. He took Loretta's information, glanced at the screen, and his mouth tightened. His posture changed, subtly. Less customer service, more suspicion. Loretta felt it in her bones before he did anything overt. He told the clerk to run it again. The clerk complied, fingers moving quickly, eyes down. Then the pharmacist looked at Loretta and asked her to confirm what she was picking up. Loretta did, calmly. She explained her doctor had changed her medication and sent it in. She also had the printed copy as backup. The pharmacist's face did not soften. It sharpened. He asked what doctor. Loretta gave the name. He asked what clinic. Loretta gave the clinic. He asked for the address. Loretta gave the address, slowly, because now the questions were coming too fast and too pointed. People behind her were listening. The pharmacist leaned closer to the screen. He told Loretta the prescription did not look right. He said the system flagged it. Loretta had heard the word flagged before. It always sounded official, like the computer had moral authority. She asked what was wrong. He said it looked fake. The air in the line changed instantly. The mother stopped bouncing her toddler. The man with the tickets lifted his head. Loretta could feel eyes on her purse, on her hands, on her skin. Loretta did not raise her voice. She did not argue. She asked him to check again with the clinic because her doctor had been clear and the prescription was legitimate. The pharmacist said he could not fill it. Loretta asked for the store manager, or someone who could explain what exactly the system was claiming. The pharmacist's expression shifted into something colder. He told her he was not debating it. He said the prescription was fraudulent and he had to follow policy. Loretta felt her face warm. Not from guilt, from humiliation. That particular kind of humiliation where you realize you are being accused in public and you are expected to accept it politely. Loretta pulled the sealed envelope out of her purse. She placed it on the counter like a careful offering. She said the printed prescription was right there from the clinic, and she was asking him to verify it. The pharmacist did not open the envelope. He did not even touch it. He stepped back as if the paper itself might contaminate him. Then he did something that made Loretta's stomach drop. He turned slightly, angled his body so his voice carried, and told the clerk to contact law enforcement because a customer was attempting to pass a fraudulent prescription. The clerk's eyes widened. The mother's toddler began fussing, sensing tension. Loretta stood still, holding her hands lightly against the cart handle, trying to keep them from shaking. Loretta said she was not attempting anything. She said she was trying to fill a prescription that her doctor had issued. She said the pharmacist could call the clinic right now. The pharmacist did not do that. He did not pick up the phone. He did not ask for a contact number. He did not step into a consultation area. He did not offer a private conversation. He stared at Loretta as if her presence was the problem, not the paperwork. Minutes passed, thick and slow. A store employee appeared from the front and hovered near the pharmacy, pretending to straighten shelves while watching Loretta like she might bolt. Another customer joined the line and immediately sensed something was off. Whispering started, not loud, but enough. Loretta's face stayed calm. She had practiced calm. Calm was a shield, a strategy, a way to survive when you were surrounded by people who interpreted your emotion as threat. Still, inside, something was cracking. Loretta thought of her doctor's warnings. She thought of missing the medication. She thought of the fact that she had driven there on a knee that hurt and a blood pressure that misbehaved to do the responsible thing. And now, she was being treated like a criminal in front of strangers. Then the police came. 2 officers, white, late 20s to early 30s, uniforms crisp, posture confident. They walked in with the easy pace of people who knew the room would part for them. One headed straight to the pharmacy counter while the other scanned the area, eyes moving across faces like a spotlight. Loretta's heart beat faster. She hated how her body reacted because fear could make you look guilty, and that was another trap. The pharmacist leaned over the counter and spoke to the officers. Loretta could not hear everything, but she caught enough. Fraud, fake prescription, attempting to obtain medication, refused to leave, concern for staff safety. The words landed like rocks. Loretta felt a flash of anger. She had not refused to leave. She had asked for verification and explanation. That was all. The first officer turned toward Loretta and asked her to step away from the counter. Loretta complied immediately. She moved to the side, hands visible, posture upright. She held her purse strap firmly with one hand because it made her feel less exposed. The officer asked for identification. Loretta handed it over. The officer studied it, then asked for her purse. Loretta blinked. She asked why. The officer said it was part of the investigation. Loretta felt her throat tighten. There are certain moments where dignity feels fragile. A purse is private. It holds your life in small objects. Medication lists, family photos, a comb, old receipts, a church pamphlet, the kind of things no stranger should be able to paw through. Loretta said she would not hand over her purse without cause. She said she had done nothing wrong. She said the pharmacist could call the clinic and confirm the prescription. She said she was willing to wait while they verified it. The second officer stepped closer. His hand rested near his belt, not drawing anything, just signaling power. He told Loretta she needed to cooperate. Loretta looked around. People were openly watching now. The mother had shifted to the side, toddler on her shoulder, eyes wide. The man with the ticket smirked like he was enjoying the show. Loretta realized what was happening. The officers were about to turn her refusal into the justification. Not because she was violent, because she was refusing to be humiliated quietly. Loretta felt her cheeks burn. She could have walked out, but then she would leave without medication and with an accusation hanging in the air. She could have complied, but compliance meant letting strangers go through her life on a pharmacy floor. Her body chose survival. Loretta placed her purse on the counter edge near the cart and opened it herself. She said she would show them what was inside, but she would not let them take it away. The officer told her to empty it. Loretta froze. The instruction was not practical. It was performative. It was designed for the audience. The pharmacist stood behind the counter, arms folded, expression tight with satisfaction. Loretta saw it clearly then. He wanted this. He wanted her to feel small. Loretta swallowed, then began removing items one by one. Wallet, keys, hand sanitizer, a small pill organizer, a folded tissue pack, a worn notebook, receipts, a lipstick she barely used, a photograph of her granddaughter at a school ceremony. She placed each item on the counter edge and the cart handle like she was laying out evidence at her own trial. The store was quiet, except for the rustle of paper and the toddler's soft whining. The officer watched, eyes scanning. The second officer leaned closer, looking into the purse as if he expected drugs to spill out. Loretta's hands trembled, and she hated that. Trembling hands made people think they were catching you. Then the officer picked up the sealed envelope and asked what it was. Loretta explained it was the printed prescription. The officer looked at the pharmacist as if asking why this was not simply verified. The pharmacist responded quickly, gesturing to the computer screen, saying the system flagged it and policy required police notification. Loretta felt something snap quietly inside her. Not rage, resolve. She asked the officers to listen for 1 minute. She told them she had just left the clinic. She told them her doctor had sent the prescription electronically and given her a paper backup. She told them the pharmacist had not called the clinic. She told them she had asked him to verify it. She told them she needed the medication for her health. She told them she was willing to prove everything. The first officer's expression softened a fraction. The second stayed rigid. The officer asked the pharmacist again whether he had called the clinic. The pharmacist said he did not need to, because the system flag was enough. Loretta stared at the pharmacist and then looked away, because if she held his gaze, she feared she might say something that would be used against her. The first officer told Loretta she would need to leave the store for now and could return later with verification. He said the pharmacist was refusing service. Loretta asked if she was being cited or arrested. The officer said no, but she needed to leave. Loretta asked if they were going to document that she had been accused of fraud. She asked if there would be a report, because her name was being dragged through the dirt in public. The officer said the report would be internal. Loretta felt the bitter taste of it. The accusation would live in their records. The humiliation would live in her body. The correction, if it came, would be quiet, if it came at all. Loretta gathered her belongings with careful precision, placing them back into her purse, as if she were restoring order to a ruined room. She held the envelope tightly. She walked toward the door while the officers followed at a respectful distance that still communicated control. People watched her walk out like she was leaving a courtroom, not a pharmacy. Outside, the sunlight felt too bright. Loretta reached her car, sat behind the wheel, and held her forehead against the steering wheel for a long moment. Her chest tightened. Her hands felt numb. She forced herself to breathe slowly. Then she did what she always did when a system tried to crush her. She started building a record. Loretta drove back to the clinic. Her knee screamed with each press of the pedal. She parked in a handicap spot she had earned and walked inside with her purse clutched tight. The front desk recognized her immediately. They asked if she was all right. Loretta did not dramatize. She did not collapse. She said the pharmacy had accused her of a fraudulent prescription and called police. She said she had been forced to empty her purse in public. She said she needed verification and documentation now. The staff's faces changed. Not the polite concern of customer service. Real concern. The kind that comes when professionals realize a patient has been harmed by a chain of incompetence and bias. A nurse escorted Loretta to a small office and called the doctor. The doctor came in, looked at Loretta, and went still. Loretta could see anger behind the doctor's eyes. The doctor printed a confirmation letter on clinic letterhead, signed it, and stamped it. The letter verified that the prescription was valid, issued that day, and medically necessary. The doctor also printed an electronic transmission log showing the time and destination pharmacy. Loretta held the papers and felt a small surge of power. Paper did not erase humiliation, but it did give you a weapon that did not require raising your voice. Loretta returned to the pharmacy the next morning. She brought the letter, the transmission log, and a calm that felt like ice. She did not go alone. Her adult nephew came with her, not to speak for her, but to witness. Loretta did not want another version of events floating around without a second set of eyes. They walked to the pharmacy counter. A different clerk was there. Loretta presented the papers and asked for the pharmacist. The same pharmacist appeared. His expression tightened again when he saw Loretta. He glanced at the letter and then at the transmission log. He did not apologize. He did not acknowledge the previous day. He simply said he would check. Loretta watched him type. His face changed in small increments. Confusion, then frustration, then something like embarrassment. The computer screen reflected in his glasses. He tapped, then leaned closer. He clicked again. Loretta could feel the moment approaching where he would have to admit something. Instead, he pivoted. He said the prescription could be filled now, but it would take time. He said insurance might require authorization. He said they were out of stock. He said it might be available in a few days. The excuses rolled out too smoothly, like a prepared shelf of deflection. Loretta said she would wait. She said she would also like a written statement correcting the accusation of fraud and documenting that the prescription was valid. The pharmacist's jaw tightened. He said they did not provide that kind of statement. Loretta asked for the store manager. A manager came, white woman, mid-50s, polished hair, practiced smile. Loretta explained calmly what happened. She explained she had been accused of fraud, police were called, she was made to empty her purse in public, and now the prescription was suddenly fillable. The manager listened with the sympathetic face that often means nothing will change. She offered to talk privately. Loretta agreed, because privacy is where you stop being a spectacle and start becoming a complaint. In the small consultation room, Loretta repeated the facts. The manager apologized in general terms without admitting fault. Loretta asked for the incident report. The manager said it was internal. Loretta asked for the store's policy on police calls. The manager said she would look into it. Loretta asked for the names of the officers. The manager said she did not have them. Loretta asked for the body camera footage from the police. The manager said that was not under the store's control. Loretta asked whether the store had surveillance video. The manager said it might, depending on retention. Loretta asked for it to be preserved. The manager's eyes flickered. She said she could not promise. Loretta left the store with no medication and a familiar feeling, a feeling like being brushed aside politely. At home that afternoon, Loretta sat at her dining table and wrote down everything. Time she arrived, the clerk's description, the pharmacist's name on his badge, the officer's approximate ages and appearance, the exact items she had been forced to place on display, the way customers stared, the way the pharmacist's expression looked satisfied, the way the officer's voice changed when she asked for a report. Loretta did not have a law degree. She did not need one. She had lived long enough to recognize when a story would be rewritten without her. Then she filed complaints. One to corporate customer relations. One to the State Board of Pharmacy. One to the police department's internal affairs unit requesting the incident report number and the body camera footage. One to the city's public records office, because Loretta had learned that the first answer is often no, and the second answer in writing tends to be different. Days passed. The pharmacy left a voicemail saying her prescription was ready. The tone was neutral, as if nothing had happened. Loretta listened to the message twice and felt anger rise again. Ready. After humiliation, after risk, after delay, that could have harmed her. She picked up the medication, but she did not let that close the case. She did not thank them for doing the bare minimum. She paid and left without making eye contact. The responses to her complaints arrived slowly, like reluctant drips. Corporate sent a generic acknowledgement. The Board of Pharmacy requested additional details. The police department provided an incident number and said body camera footage required a formal request and processing time. The pharmacy manager called once and apologized again in vague terms, emphasizing that the pharmacist had followed policy. Loretta heard the word policy and felt that cold resolve return. Policy was not magic. Policy was written by people. Policy could be abused by people. Loretta contacted a civil rights attorney whose name she got through a community group. The attorney's office did not promise anything. They asked for the documents Loretta had. They asked for the timeline. They asked whether there were witnesses. Loretta said yes. Her nephew had been there on the return visit. The first day, there were customers, and surveillance might exist, and the body camera definitely existed, because the officers had responded and spoken. The attorney listened and said something that lodged in Loretta's mind. The attorney said the most important piece would be the audio. Loretta asked why the audio mattered more than the video. The attorney said, because the audio captures intent. It captures the reason people give when they think they are safe. It captures the moment bias slips out. It captures admissions, jokes, assumptions, and the casual language that turns an ordinary misunderstanding into a public humiliation. Loretta felt her stomach tighten. She had a flashback of the pharmacist turning his body so his voice carried, using words like fraudulent and attempting. She wondered what else had been said near those officers, what tone, what implication. The attorney filed the body camera request. He also sent a preservation letter to the pharmacy chain demanding that surveillance be preserved, and that all incident logs and internal communications regarding Loretta be retained. Weeks later, the police department released the body camera footage. Loretta sat at her table with her attorney on a video call. Her nephew sat nearby, arms crossed, face hard. Loretta's hands were steady, but she could feel her heart beating faster as the footage began. The video showed the pharmacy counter. It showed Loretta standing there with her cart, posture calm, hands visible. It showed the pharmacist behind the counter, speaking quickly to the officers. It showed customers watching. It showed the officer asking Loretta to step aside. Then, the audio sharpened. Loretta heard the pharmacist describe her prescription as fake with a certainty he did not earn. Loretta heard him describe Loretta as argumentative when Loretta's voice was measured. Loretta heard him suggest she might be trying to get controlled medication illegally, even though no verification had been attempted. Then came the part that made Loretta's breath catch. The pharmacist, thinking Loretta could not hear, used a phrase that revealed exactly what he believed about her. It was not a slur shouted. It was worse. It was the casual stereotype, the idea that she was the kind of person who tries things, the kind of person who needs to be handled, the kind of person who makes scenes. The officer responded with a neutral sound, not agreeing, not challenging, simply accepting the frame as plausible. Then, later, when the first officer asked whether the clinic had been called, the pharmacist admitted he had not called. He said the computer flag was enough, and he did not have time to chase down every questionable prescription. Every questionable prescription. Loretta heard that line and felt rage because it exposed the laziness at the center of the humiliation. He did not verify because he did not want to. He escalated because escalation was easier than admitting uncertainty. Then something else happened in the audio that made the attorney pause the video. The pharmacist mentioned a system alert about the prescriber, not the prescription. He said the prescriber number did not match because the clinic had recently updated their system and some records were still syncing. He said he had seen that glitch before. Loretta's mouth went dry. He had seen it before, so he knew it could be a glitch. He knew it might be legitimate. He knew calling the clinic would likely resolve it. Yet he still chose police. He still chose the public spectacle. He still chose to label Loretta as a fraud risk. Loretta felt something settle in her chest like a stone. This was not a mistake. This was a choice. The attorney requested the full incident report and dispatch call audio as well. When it arrived, another ugly detail surfaced. The call to police included embellishments. The pharmacist had described Loretta as refusing to leave and making staff feel unsafe. The body camera showed Loretta was not threatening. She was insisting on verification and documentation, and she did not raise her hands or move aggressively. The attorney began building the case like a careful structure. He requested pharmacy records, the internal system flag log, and any corporate policy requiring police involvement. He also requested training records and past incidents related to the same prescriber flag, because if this had happened before, there would be a pattern. The pharmacy chain resisted at first. Corporate attorneys sent letters about privacy and policy. They offered a small gift card settlement and an apology. Loretta laughed once, sharply, when she read the offer, then stopped laughing because it felt like choking. A gift card for humiliation. The attorney filed suit. Not because Loretta wanted to be famous. She wanted the narrative corrected. She wanted the record cleared. She wanted consequences for a pharmacist who treated her health like an inconvenience and her dignity like collateral. The suit alleged discrimination, negligence, defamation, and emotional distress. It also named the company for failing to train and supervise. The pharmacy chain responded with the usual defensive posture. They claimed the pharmacist acted in good faith. They claimed the police response was standard. They claimed Loretta was disruptive. They claimed the system flag created reasonable suspicion. Then discovery began, and the tone changed. Under subpoena, the pharmacy produced internal documents, not all at once. A slow release of data, heavily redacted at first, then forced into clarity by court orders. Loretta learned about the prescriber flag. It was a known issue tied to a software update. Internal memos discussed it. Emails warned staff that certain clinics might temporarily appear mismatched. The fix was simple. Call the clinic, verify the prescription, document the call. Do not escalate unless verification fails. Loretta stared at that guidance and felt nausea, because it meant that the pharmacist did not just fail to verify. He ignored known guidance. He bypassed the fix. He jumped straight to police. More emails surfaced. One was between the pharmacist and the store manager from the day after the incident. The pharmacist wrote defensively, trying to justify his decision. He described Loretta's tone as hostile. He described feeling threatened. He described needing to protect the store from fraudulent prescriptions. Then the manager replied with a line that sounded like a warning. She reminded him that the clinic mismatch alert had been circulating and the correct procedure was to verify. She also reminded him that police involvement should be a last resort. Loretta read that email and felt something like the vindication, but the kind that tastes bitter. The manager knew. The pharmacist was reminded. Yet the incident had already happened. Loretta's purse was already on display. Her granddaughter's photo had already been part of evidence theater. The attorney requested data on other incidents involving the same pharmacist. The company resisted, calling it irrelevant. The attorney argued pattern. The judge agreed. The data showed a cluster of police calls from that location, many tied to prescriptions flagged by the same system alert. It also showed that complaints were disproportionately filed by Black and brown customers. The company argued correlation wasn't causation. The attorney argued that correlation is often the first smoke. Loretta did not need statistics to know what she experienced. Still, the numbers gave her experience a shape the court would recognize. A hearing was scheduled. The day of the hearing, Loretta dressed in her best suit, the one she wore to church on special days. She sat in a room that smelled like carpet cleaner and stale coffee. Her attorney sat beside her with folders organized into tabs. Across the aisle, the pharmacy's legal team looked polished and bored, as if they were working on a spreadsheet, not a person's dignity. The judge entered, looked at the case file, and began with procedural questions. The pharmacy's attorney argued that the pharmacist acted responsibly due to a suspected fraudulent prescription. He argued public safety. He argued controlled substances and risk. Loretta's attorney then played the body camera audio. Not the whole thing. The important parts. The pharmacist's certainty without verification. The admission that he did not call the clinic. The acknowledgement that he had seen the glitch before. The embellishment in the call to police. The casual framing of Loretta as the kind of person who tries things. The room changed as the audio played. Even people who'd been staring at their phones looked up. Loretta watched the judge's face. Judges are trained to keep their expressions neutral, but there are moments where the mask slips. A slight tightening around the eyes. A pause that lasts longer than expected. The judge asked the pharmacy's attorney why the clinic was not called. The attorney said the pharmacist relied on system flags. The judge asked whether the system flags were known to glitch. The attorney hesitated, then acknowledged that system alerts could be imperfect. The judge asked whether there was internal guidance advising verification. The pharmacy's attorney tried to say not relevant. Loretta's attorney presented the memo. The judge read it. The judge asked why police were called instead of verifying with a phone call. The pharmacy's attorney shifted to the claim that Loretta was disruptive. Loretta's attorney asked the judge to consider the body camera footage showing Loretta's calm posture, her measured tone, her compliance, her visible hands. The judge watched. Then the judge asked a question that made Loretta's stomach flip. The judge asked whether the pharmacist had received training on handling mismatched prescriber alerts and on de-escalation and privacy. The pharmacy's attorney said training existed. Loretta's attorney presented records showing the pharmacist had completed training months earlier. Training that explicitly stated that customers should be brought into a private area for sensitive matters and that police involvement should be rare and documented. Loretta sat still. Her heart hammered. The system had words for what should have happened. Those words had been ignored. Then came the most humiliating detail and the most effective, because it was so simple. Loretta's attorney asked the judge to consider the instruction to empty Loretta's purse. The attorney argued that it was not necessary to confirm a prescription. It was a public punishment. It was the theater. It was humiliation used as compliance. The pharmacy's attorney argued officers made that decision. Loretta's attorney pointed out that the pharmacist had created the suspicion narrative and had watched it unfold without intervening, without clarifying, without de-escalating. He had allowed a medical issue to become a police spectacle. The judge looked at the pharmacist, who was seated behind the attorneys, and asked him to explain why he didn't call the clinic. The pharmacist answered with careful phrasing. He said he was concerned about fraud. He said he had to protect the public. He said he felt threatened. The judge asked, what specifically made him feel threatened? The pharmacist struggled. He referenced Loretta's insistence. He referenced her tone. The judge asked whether Loretta threatened him. The pharmacist said no. The judge asked whether Loretta touched anyone. The pharmacist said no. The judge asked whether Loretta raised her hands. The pharmacist said no. The judge asked why police were called with a claim that staff felt unsafe. Silence hung for a moment that felt long. Loretta's attorney then introduced the dispatch call summary showing embellishments. The judge read it and asked the pharmacist whether he had described Loretta as refusing to leave and making staff feel unsafe. The pharmacist said he had, because the situation felt escalating. The judge asked whether a simple call to the clinic might have prevented that escalation. The pharmacist had no clean answer. The judge did not deliver a theatrical speech. Courts do not usually do that in real life. Instead, the judge did something more powerful. He ordered additional discovery. He ordered the pharmacy to produce unredacted internal communications regarding the prescriber flag issue. He ordered the company to preserve records of similar incidents. He also indicated that the audio raised serious concerns regarding the reasonableness of the pharmacist's actions and the handling of Loretta's privacy. Outside the hearing room, the pharmacy's attorneys requested a settlement meeting. The offer came quickly: a written apology, payment of Loretta's legal fees, a damages amount that was not insulting, a commitment to retrain staff, a commitment to update policy and include mandatory verification steps before police involvement, a commitment to discipline the pharmacist. Loretta listened and felt a strange calm. Part of her wanted to reject it on principle. Another part wanted to end the slow bleeding and get her life back. Loretta asked for something specific. She wanted the company to put in writing that the prescription was valid and that the fraud accusation was unfounded. She wanted them to provide a letter she could keep because she knew how records travel. She also wanted the company to notify the police department that the incident did not involve fraud because she did not want her name floating inside a database as a suspected criminal. Her attorney pushed for those terms. The pharmacy chain resisted the police notification. They claimed that they could not control police records. Loretta's attorney argued they could at least correct their own statement and provide documentation that the call was made under a misunderstanding. Eventually, the company agreed to send a formal clarification to the police department's records unit and to the store's internal incident file. They also agreed to preserve the body camera audio for future review and to provide Loretta a copy. Loretta also demanded that the pharmacist be removed from that location. The company did not say the exact disciplinary action, but they agreed that the pharmacist would not continue in that store. Loretta did not need the details. She needed the risk reduced for the next grandmother who walked in with a prescription and a tired body. The settlement was finalized. A week later, Loretta received a letter. The language was corporate and careful, but the meaning was clear enough. The company acknowledged that the prescription was valid and that the incident was mishandled. They apologized for the public embarrassment and the involvement of law enforcement. Loretta read the letter and felt no triumph. What she felt was a quiet exhaustion, the kind that comes after months of holding your breath. Then, she heard something that made her sit up at her kitchen table. A community group contacted her and asked if she would share her story at a meeting about policing and public accommodations. Loretta hesitated because she didn't enjoy being a symbol. Still, she remembered the mother in line, the toddler on her shoulder watching. Loretta remembered the older customers staring. Loretta remembered how easily the room had accepted the pharmacist's accusation. Loretta agreed. At the meeting, Loretta did not shout. She did not perform anger. She described the facts calmly. She described being made to empty her purse. She described the way the pharmacist spoke about her, not to her. She described the way the officers treated the pharmacy's narrative as reality. She described the body camera audio exposing the real reason the incident escalated, not danger, not fraud, but refusal to verify, and an assumption that she was suspicious by nature. People in the room listened differently than they would have listened to a dramatic story. Calm facts are harder to dismiss. Afterward, a woman approached Loretta and said the same pharmacist had humiliated her father months earlier. Another man said he had been accused of trying to scam the pharmacy when his insurance system glitched. A nurse said she had seen patients turned away because staff did not want to do the extra work of calling a clinic. Loretta realized the incident was not isolated. It was a pattern of convenience, a pattern of shortcuts, a pattern of using authority as a substitute for verification. Loretta filed one more complaint, this time to the City Council Oversight Committee and the State Board, including the body camera, audio transcript, and the internal memo about the known software glitch. The board opened an investigation. The company announced updated procedures across several stores, emphasizing privacy and verification before law enforcement contact. Loretta watched those announcements on the local news and felt something close to satisfaction, but not quite. Satisfaction would suggest balance restored. Balance did not exist. What existed was a small correction pushed into place by persistence and paper. Months later, Loretta returned to the clinic for a follow-up appointment. Her doctor asked how she was doing. Loretta said she was fine because that was what she said out of habit. Then she surprised herself. She told the doctor about the settlement and the body camera audio. The doctor shook her head, disgust visible. The doctor told Loretta that medical systems often assume older Black patients will tolerate disrespect, and that assumption survives because too many people are too tired to fight. Loretta left the clinic and sat in her car for a moment, hands on the steering wheel, looking at nothing. She thought about the purse, the objects laid out like a confession, the photo of her granddaughter sitting on a counter as strangers watched, the pharmacist's face behind his authority, the officers' calm voices treating humiliation as procedure. Then she thought about the audio, the simple fact that sound recorded what people say when they think it will never matter. The way a recording can turn a story from allegation into evidence. Loretta did not become fearless after that. Fear does not disappear when you win. It just learns new shapes. What changed was her sense of what was possible. A pharmacy had accused her of fraud. Police had made her empty her purse. Strangers had watched and decided, silently, what kind of person she must be. Then a body camera captured the truth. Not a heroic speech. Not a public apology that went viral. Just a few minutes of audio proving the escalation was not about safety or policy, but about a choice to assume the worst and skip the one step that would have protected her dignity. Loretta kept that lesson close, not as bitterness, as a warning. In a world where people will call you a suspect faster than they will call your doctor, the loudest protection is often the thing they do not expect you to have. A record, a timeline, a copy, and the patience to make their own words come back to them in a room where they cannot talk their way out.